Coming up on this episode of Flirtations, we're celebrating the premiere of the new season of And Just Like That with a special Sex and the City episode. For this conversation, we welcome back to the show the multi-talented and multifaceted Scott Spraags, a dancer, choreographer, producer, director, and all-around passionate creator who is a Sex and the City superfan, just like me. In this episode, we explore each of the iconic characters, Carrie, Miranda, Charlotte, and Samantha, and the enduring dating lessons their stories, romances, relationships, and sexcapades have offered. From Carrie's avoidant and yet anxious tendencies to Miranda's type A personality and how that played out in dating, to Charlotte's hopeful romanticism and belief in love, to Samantha's unapologetic sexual confidence, we discuss how these characters and their narratives have shaped our understanding of love and relationships. So, whether you're a longtime fan or new to the series, please join us as we celebrate the show's impact on dating culture and its continued relevance today. Let's do this, flirties, and meet Scotty.
I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. Hello, my name is Benjamin. I'm the flirt coach and a gay Libra. Everyone has an inner flirt.
Hey, flirty.
Live, laugh, flirt.
Work the flirt.
Work the flirt. Delulu is the Salulu. Expert on the flirt.
Hey, flirty. There's always another flirt.
Everyone has an inner flirt. Get out of your head and into the flirt.
Flirties, back on the show is the multifaceted and multi-talented Scotty Spraags. You may have seen him as the Nutcracker in the last rendition of the Jinx and Dela holiday show. He has worked with Post Malone and Martin Short, to name a few. He's a dancer with the Broadway Barbara live review. Scotty Spraags, hello and welcome back to the show.
Well, hello, Benjamin. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, wonderful, and beautiful now that we're here together recording a very special Sex and the City episode of Flirtation.
I mean, I think this is like the penultimate episode. Not to brag, this is going to be one of your best episodes you're going to have.
I'm totally feeling that because we are Sex in the City, cinephiles, TV files, like whatever word you want to input there to say love, adore, obsessed with, that's us.
Yeah. I mean, do they have a name for their fan base? Like, I wonder if there ever was.
You know what?
Was that before its time?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've ever heard like an official, like, what do you call a Sex in the City fan?
I don't know. I would say like maybe the Cosmos. I don't know. The
Cosmos.
The Sexies.
The Sexies? Ooh, that has a nice ring to it. And maybe like people identify more with a character. So like you might just call yourself a Miranda or a Samantha or a Charlotte or a Carrie. I don't know. Or a Big. Who knows?
Or a Big. Oh my gosh.
God. Yes. If none of that made sense to you, flirties, by the end of this conversation, it will, as the idea for this episode. So the new season of And Just Like That has debuted on HBO Max, and thought it'd be really fun to revisit some of the themes, some of the lessons, some of the romances and relationships from an absolutely classic show that has been rated one of the top TV shows in history on multiple lists. And I agree.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting. We'll deep dive about it. But I just started listening to Kristen Davis, her podcast, Are You a Charlotte?
Yes.
She talked about how even when that started, there were no shows that shot in New York besides like cop shows. It was the first, it truly was one of the first shows of its time, like between the topics, like having 4 female leads like that, and then just the New York of it all and just the topics of a whole. But I'm sure we'll dive into the history of the show. Yeah,
it broke a lot of barriers in many ways. And that's something, we're definitely going to be talking about. And also, did it or does it stand the test of time, right? Mm-hmm. Would it be maybe the same show if it aired today?
Well, and obviously we're seeing that with And Just Like That and how those changes as it's
a lot of changes
progress over the now 3 seasons.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. So as, we've got to talk a little bit about Sex in the City, because as I was like kind of, having some conversations at the store with customers at the yoga studio, just thinking about, all right, how to approach this, realized, I mean, unsurprisingly, that not everyone has watched every episode 10 times. Not everyone rewatches the series every year like us. So there are going to be some flirties listening that, have caught it here and there in syndication. Maybe they're old enough to remember when it was on the air, running live. maybe they, like my friend Jackie, has never seen a single episode, but listens to a recap podcast that recaps every episode. And I'm like, girl, why? She's like, but I don't know. I just love it. I feel like I'm watching it.
I mean, but I know a lot of people like that, not necessarily with Sex and the City, but even like movies and things. Like Nicole Byer, she has a podcast called Newcomers with Lauren Lapkus. And they talk about how some people have never watched any of these movies, but they just want to listen to them talk about the movies, their perspectives on it. So, you know, I think it brings a sense of community, and people just love being a part of the conversation. Yeah,
I think so too. And for the Flirties, getting to know you for the first time today, you were featured on episode 14 of Flirtations almost a year ago, an episode about authenticity, vulnerability, self-expression, creativity. But I'd love for you to share a little bit more about yourself here at the top.
Of course. Well, my name is Scott Spraags, Scotty. I'm lived all around the world and back. I'm originally from Chicago, and I currently reside in Southern California here in LA. I'm an entertainment and creative. I sing, dance, act, help produce, event manage, everything you can think of. I can do it. I'll pick it up and learn it really quickly. And I'm passionate about people. I think that success is the people around you. It doesn't come from resume or money, because those things are fleeting. But like, I just had a birthday this week, and being at an event where it's like, oh, I'm really loved and cared about. So I really, people, it's important. So that's a little bit about me, and come hang out anytime. Yeah. Right by the beach.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're ever in Southern California, I mean, catch a show. I think you do some disco bingo of sorts at the Ore Bar.
I do. Hosted by Jason Wimberly every Monday, 7:30. It's the best.
There you go. Okay. Thank you for that introduction, Scotty. And now, all right, Sex and the City. So I want to frame this as like, where were you when it debuted? If we could maybe reveal an age, perhaps. I don't know. I'll reveal mine. I'm 39. And so Sex and the City, based on the book by Candace Bushnell, which was initially a column, then turned into a book. And Sex and the City as a book debuted in 1996. Sex and the City, the TV show, debuted in 1998 on HBO. And in 1998, I would have been 13.
In 1998, I would have been 2 years old. Because I didn't get premiered in June. So I would have had a birthday less than like a month ago.
Oh, good point. Yeah, I have it here, June 6, 1998. So I actually would have only been 12. I had not yet turned 13.
Look at us babies.
Interesting. I know. It was a different world, because back then, I say back then like it was so long ago, but honestly, it kind of was. It was almost 30 years ago. And at that time, right, there was no internet, there was no Wi-Fi, there was no streaming, there were no cell phones, there was no immediate access to the things we have immediate access to now. And so to watch Sex and the City, you had to get HBO up as a part of your cable package, which a lot of cable packages offered. It was like their freebie, it was their upsell. So a lot of households that had cable also had HBO. And I'm pretty sure, at least I remember it coming on Sunday nights.
Yeah.
And I would have been a little bit too young to watch that. So I would be like, Mom, all right, I'm going to go get ready for bed. Or I'm going to go talk to my friend. I'm going to go study. I forgot I have a test tomorrow. Or, I'm going to go read or whatever. Then I'd go up to my room, close the door, and watch Sex and the City.
I mean, and that's so funny you mentioned like a different time, because like I just started listening to Kristen Davis, her podcast, Are You a Charlotte? And she had SJP on, Sarah Jessica Parker, for our friends who don't know, on the podcast recently, and it's going to be a two-parter. And they talked about how HBO was a brand new thing. Like it wasn't what it is today. It's not HBO Max. It's not Showtime. And so Darren Star, the creator, he was known for, if I remember correctly, it was Beverly Hills 90210. And I was either that or Melrose Place. One of
was it Melrose? It might.
It was one of the. I think it was
Melrose.
To it, but like he had a deal with Fox, and like obviously at the time, ABC and Fox, they were more family oriented, so he wanted to take a risk and do things a little bit more edgier. So here we are with Sex and the City on HBO, and like cable, like it was, like I said, just now kicking off. It wasn't what it is today by any means. Even talking about like them having to fax over their cover sheets and the auditions when they were being offered these roles, like it's fascinating to see how times have changed and how they had to adapt the show through those times. And then here we are now with it being a streaming show and then 2 movies. So It's definitely interesting.
Completely, media was very different, and this was also like pre-reality TV, where pretty much the only offerings you had were scripted. A lot of the offerings were scripted, and it just like the media landscape has changed so much. Where if you were when Sex and the City debuted, it was taboo. It was barrier breaking. Like they were talking about topics, and even there was nudity, right? There was sex, of course. This was like, it was the show.
I mean, especially like at that time, for sure, it was for women. It was, you have 4 powerful, like women who are ahead of their time, who are progressive and do all these things. And they're able to have this like sexual awakening on screen that like we haven't seen before. And then you bring in the nudity and the topics and it's been filmed in New York. Like I said, only cop shows were filmed there. So it really was the first of its kind in so many different ways. And it still is here today in different forms, but it's such a cool thing.
New York City, Manhattan, they don't do boroughs, at least until the very end. When Miranda went to Brooklyn. Yeah, she moved to Brooklyn. The city really, the fifth leading lady, but also, great point, there were no, or very few shows with all female leads, with all female centered narratives, right? A lot of stories were told from the male perspective. It was centered around a male figure, or at least in collaboration. Like maybe you had a duo. I'm thinking like maybe SVU or something like that, where you had like the man cop and the woman cop. But very few shows had all female leads at that time.
Especially of a show like that caliber. And even the male stars who came on, who were guest stars, like nowadays, or who are like big stars now, like they were just like Matthew Vaughn or Vince Vaughn or like all these different people. It's like, oh, we had so many iconic guys guest star on this show, but it was just like, whatever. Let's get back to the girls. Like it wasn't, they were never the true focus, you know, when they came and guest starred.
Yes, we're gonna definitely touch on a few of them. And so when Sex and the City debuted 1998, we were introduced to Carrie Bradshaw, played by Sarah Jessica Parker, Samantha Jones, played by Kim Cattrall, Miranda Hobbs, played by Cynthia Nixon, and Charlotte York, played by Kristen Davis. They were your leads, and they were 4 single women navigating the dating scene in New York City in their 30s. Samantha maybe in her early 40s at the time of debut. No, I think she still would have been in her late 30s at debut.
I think so. I think she had her birthday throughout the season.
Yeah. They never quite gave like the hard timeline, I feel like. But if all the other women were 35, I feel like Samantha was about maybe 5 or so years older.
Yeah, because I think Samantha turned 50 at the end of the Sex and the City, the movie.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, like there was a birthday, I think, when she moved back. It was her birthday.
That's good to know, as I have pretty much blacked out the movies.
Well, and it's so funny you say that, because Nicole Byer talks about it, how the movies are one canon, the TV show is one canon, and just like that is a continuation of the movies. So yeah.
Very true.
It's a guilty pleasure. Like I love them for their own rights.
It's a cinematic experience, and if you're a true Sex and the City fan, I mean, we've seen them. We're watching every episode of Ain't Just Like That, of course. So we took the quiz, which will be linked here in the show notes for the episode, to find out which Sex and the City character are you. So Scotty, which one are you?
Who do you think I am?
God. Okay, so I know who your favorite is.
Who's my favorite?
And I think your favorite is Samantha.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going with Samantha. You on the quiz, you got Samantha.
You would be right. I got Miss Samantha. You either live your inner Samantha out loud, or took this quiz and you found out you were definitely Samantha. Get out and show the world what you got.
Yes. God, I love that for you. All right. So I got that right. Do you want to guess mine?
I feel like you're a Charlotte.
God damn it. Yes, you are correct. Because we've talked about this a little bit, where I want to be the Samantha. I do. But I took that quiz, and it was a relatively quick quiz. There weren't a lot of questions. I was like, I could engineer this. I could manipulate the quiz if I really wanted to. No, it still read me like a book, and I got Charlotte. My synopsis is, you definitely have some Carrie-like tendencies. That is true. But at the end of the day, you are a truly deep romantic. You're a total Charlotte. Try not to take life too seriously and let loose once in a while.
Would your friends consider you a Charlotte?
I am not sure. I feel like they might see me a little bit more as a Samantha, just because in some social situations I'm more extroverted, right? So more kind of, the one flirting, of course, the one making lots of connections, having conversations. Whereas I don't think Charlotte is the social butterfly of the party necessarily.
I would say in her element, she is like when it comes to I forget what episode it was.
A dinner party?
At a dinner party, or there's a couple parties and she's talking to people about weddings and marriage and babies. I think that's when she So let's get into for a moment the kind of archetypes that each lady each main character on Sex and the City is. Charlotte really is the hopeful romantic. She believes in love. One of my favorite quotes of all time comes from her. And she's like, she's throwing her hands up in the air, looking at the universe. She's single. She's like, I've been dating since I was 15. Damn it. Where is he? I'm exhausted. Yes.
Yeah, that's, quintessential hopeful romantic. That's Charlotte, who has some interesting rules about dating we're going to get into. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about Samantha, what kind of woman is Samantha?
Samantha is a powerhouse. She is her to a T, and she's not afraid to let anyone know. She's like, she's unbothered by societal norms, by what anyone else says to her. She's like, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I love me. And even she talks about it in her big breakup with Miss Jared in the movie. She says the thing that you're not supposed to say is that I love you, and I love me more. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it was one of those things where she couldn't show up fully to that relationship because she was sacrificing the love she had for herself.
Yes.
To put him on the forefront, if that makes any sense,
Yeah, I remember that line comes from one of the episodes where she was dating Richard, right? Media mogul, kind of, PR mogul Richard, who I always had a little bit of a crush on Richard.
Yeah. We all did. The bad boy.
Truly. Yeah. And I'll never forget the scene where they were celebrating Charlotte's birthday. And they all went to Atlantic City, and there was a whole mishap in the beginning where half of them flew on Richard's private jet. The other half took the jitney down to, or the bus down to Atlantic City. And then there is Charlotte on the plane with Richard and Samantha as they are getting it on. And Charlotte is there knitting, don't mind me. Are we there yet? Kind of thing. And then they get to Atlantic City. That's one of my favorite episodes. And Samantha is convinced that Richard is cheating. And then I think it's reasonable to surmise that he is, based on one of the scenes in that episode. And she walks up something like 10, 15 flights of stairs in her pearl thong, which he gave her, takes it off, gives him back this gorgeous, canary yellow diamond ring, drops that on top of the pearl thong and says, I love you, Richard, but I love me more. I can't do this. Yeah. The original, she discentered dating before anybody else did. She is, yes.
And she's had some iconic relationships throughout the show. But at the end of the day, it was all about what does Samantha need for Samantha,
Yes.
And it was, and I wouldn't say it was her trying to fit someone into that puzzle, but it was just she had to love herself. She's a tough cookie. She's this media mogul, owns a PR company. She's she's outspoken. She is not afraid to say what needs to be said.
Yeah.
Sex positive, especially in that time.
Very sex positive, and the most sexually provocative, perhaps, of all the characters. And she got some heat from that, not just from the outside world, right? Viewers and commentators. And, there was a lot of finger pointing at Samantha, a lot of name calling. And she even got that judgment from her friend group on the show.
Wow. Yeah. I remember the scene where she was, I think it was during a photo shoot with Carrie where where Carrie walked in on her going down on a guy. And
the UPS guy?
UPS guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I recall. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you could tell she obviously still cared about these people 100%. There were times when it did affect her, even if it wasn't as much as the other girls would show. But at the end of the day, Samantha did love being in love with someone. It just, she didn't want to sacrifice herself in those needs and wants of being loved.
Totally. I think she was all about the exploration of pleasure through sex, and she truly saw herself like she is not someone that derived her validation from men.
No.
She is not someone that needed to be picked, that needed to be chosen, that needed to be in the relationship. She just, and she never let, like, she was always there for her friends. Like, talk about a girl's girl. Mm-hmm. Samantha. Yeah.
And it's interesting because for a long time, I didn't know that I was a Samantha. And I had a few friends like, no, you are the Samantha of like our friend group. And I didn't really know what character I really identified with. I felt like I was an amalgamation of all of them in different ways. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I definitely am like Samantha with like a tinge of Carrie. And
yeah,
I still feel like I'm all of them, but I would say Samantha's like the forefront of who people.
All right. We got two more characters to get to. I mean, the main one, the narrator, Carrie Bradshaw, right? The story, pretty much every episode told through her point of view. Yeah. So how would you describe Carrie Bradshaw?
Oh, Carrie.
Carrie.
Talk about a complex character, right? Like, I think as I'm getting older and rewatching the show each year, there's so much wrapped up in that character, you know? But she's a fashionista. Columnist, like she writer, impeccable with her words. And that's one thing that she just talked about with Kristen Davis. Like, even in her conversations with her friends, she wanted to make sure that Carrie still spoke like a writer. She wasn't just throwing around cuss words or just slurs or anything like that. Like, she really was impeccable with what she had to say, even just her conversations with the girls around dinner or drinks. So she's very focused and she wants to find love. Like, that's why she moved to New York, you know, was love writing and labels. So I think she shows up for her friends. Whether she means to or not, the character of Carrie is a bit selfish, you know?
Yeah.
And just would sacrifice anything for these men. And I would say not that she needs validation from him, but I would say a lot of the issues came from the lack of validation from these men.
Definitely.
In the series.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Carrie?
I have so many thoughts on Carrie. I mean, yes, in some ways living my dream, right? Writing a dating and relationships column for a nationally syndicated published newspaper. I mean, that sounds amazing. I love one of her quotes. She's like, I prefer my money where I can see it hanging in my closet. She's got that rent controlled, beautiful apartment somewhere a gorgeous brownstone, right? In New York City, somewhere in the island of Manhattan, and spends every last dime she has on shoes, on Manolos. God, the fashion in this show is, it's incredible. But for Carrie as a character, like she presents, she's a little problematic, Scotty. I got to be honest. Like, as I have rewatched it as an adult, she's the villain at times. Yeah. She's not exactly a girl's girl. She is one of those girls who's going to put a man before her friends, and yet come to her friend. She's the one in the group chat blowing it up, right?
Yeah. But also won't talk about her things in full disclosure.
Yes.
Like, doesn't talk about her sex life or what's going on with her big. But all that.
And it's like, when in a relationship, like, she presents classically anxious, but then also very avoidant at times. Like, I think with Big, definitely an anxious attacher. With Aiden, avoidant AF.
Yes.
Yeah. She wants kind of what she can't have, Big, or what she shouldn't have, because for a lot of the series, he was dating, he was in a relationship, he was married at times, they had an affair, called it off, went back, had the affair a second time, right? Like, she's, and we're not like blaming or anything like that, but for the person that is the central character on the show, the lack of accountability on her behalf to own her shit is,
When it's funny, I think she asked a question that we all have been asking for years, and I think it was the second season of it, just like that, or the first, but she asked Miranda on a walk if she should have ever been with Big. And it was,
my God.
Or like, was Big a mistake or something like that?
Was Big a big mistake kind of thing? Yes. I remember that scene from And Just Like That. And it's like, because here she is and just like that back with Aiden, and who knows where that relationship is going as this new season picks up. But how it was left in the previous season was Aiden left basically, and they were going to be dating long distance for years.
Yeah. But and it's interesting because obviously Carrie's done a lot of maturing, not even necessarily age wise, but just the way she approaches dating. And even though we all loved Aiden, it wouldn't have worked out in that original timeline. Like, there are things that she wanted, just the lifestyle that she lived. Aiden loved her, like he just wanted her no matter what. But I think that she was always chasing for something bigger and better, and was just like, which was big at the end of the day. But was it really him? Because he didn't, like, they weren't good for each other.
No, they were not good for each other at all. Yeah, I mean, what was it? Was she not over her ex? Was she not over Big? Was she like watching that relationship play out is so interesting because he proposed and then she wouldn't wear the ring. Yeah. Well, she would wear it around her neck. She wouldn't wear it on a finger because she said she wanted it closer to her heart. And then the scene where he essentially bought her apartment plus the one next door so they could break through the wall and make a bigger place. And then he's breaking through the wall and she has a complete meltdown. The scene where she's trying on wedding dresses and she breaks out in hives.
Yeah.
And this is after she was already dating Aiden, cheated on him, and practically begged him to take her back.
I mean, even from the beginning, like there were things that he didn't like about her, like with the smoking, like that was a big thing. And so it's just, it felt like from the beginning, their relationship never was on solid foundation. And it's like they both wanted the idea of each other. I feel like there were things that they just didn't.
Yeah.
Whatever the idea of what it was that Carrie or Aiden was to them, they didn't live up to what they actually wanted, And it seemed like neither was willing to truly compromise what they wanted for each other and to make that sacrifice,
Yeah, I could see that. I can see that for sure. We've got one more character to get to, and that's Miranda, the redhead.
The redhead.
Yes. I mean, not just the redhead, the lawyer, mother. Yeah. What do you think about Miranda?
Oh, Miranda, our cynic. We love Miranda. She's, I would say, if anything, and you see this throughout the show and the movies and everything, I would say Miranda is truly Carrie's best friend. I think she's the only one that does hold her and the other girls accountable too. Because I think it was season 1. I'm currently rewatching it, but even like all the girls were talking about were just men. And Miranda was like, we're like 4 powerful women, like in our 30s. Then we have more to talk about than just men. But even there was an episode where like Miranda runs into her ex. She like had a complete like freak out. So even Miranda, who has this external impenetrable force, like she is still at the end of the day, she's a romantic. Like she wants to be loved, and it just has to be on her terms, And I think when she's not able to control it or see the outcome as a lawyer, then that's when things kind of, she feels like, well, what's going on?
Yeah. Something interesting about Miranda for me is, because I see this sometimes as the flirt coach, where you might have the more kind of quote unquote type A woman who is very like kind of like the boss babe in her career or her education, or maybe even in her friend group, the planner, right? The one that does, the one that is the organizer, the one who just gets shit done, right? Just a very strong, confident, and assertive. That serves you very well in some areas of your life, particularly if you're a lawyer. But in dating and in relationships, you don't really want to show up with that energy. Necessarily, right? It doesn't exactly work. And I think we saw that with Steve, where she had to, for lack of better words, soften a little bit. She had to maybe come into her feminine energy more. She had to just learn to let go a little bit.
It seems like a lot of Miranda's love interests, they all loved or liked her a lot more than she ever did them. And then once they weren't there, she realized, she was like, oh no, maybe I do, because Skeeter, the guy from the first season.
Oh my God. The curly hair glasses. Was it Scooter?
Scooter? I feel like Scooter seems right. I'm like, just
seems
not
right.
Yeah. But he like was obsessed, like to the fact where he was sleeping with another woman, and Miranda called and, like the voicemail, and he picks up the phone. He's like talking to her. He's like, "Oh, this isn't going to work out." But then Miranda didn't treat him well. Like she didn't.
Yeah.
And I think of all the characters, she's still discovering her. Like we see that, and just like that, like she's navigating now in more of a queer dating scene, and navigating her relationship with Steve. And even Steve, like a powerful scene in season 2 when he said, "You never wanted any of this. Like you didn't want to be married, you didn't want a kid, you didn't want to live in Brooklyn." You know, and it was true. Like she really didn't want any of those things. And yes, she compromised, and we saw like them deal with the ups and downs of relationship between him having an affair in the movie and her like not knowing how to navigate that. And it just, being a working mom, and not that I guess she was the breadwinner of their relationship. Like Steve owned the bar, but she was constantly
probably, but she was probably the primary earner in that relationship. At least that's how it was. At least that's how it was presented. Yeah. We've seen a complete 180 in terms of character development with Miranda in Just Like That, where, I mean, I guess a little bit of a spoiler if you haven't seen, but she asked for a divorce. Yeah, it's interesting to be able to reflect back on the original series and see how the characters have developed, changed, and just grown, evolved in this new iteration of Sex and the City. And it makes you wonder, like, was Steve, I think he was really speaking from the heart. Like, did she ever want the marriage, the kid, the house in Brooklyn, right? Or did she just really want to stay single? Or was she queer the whole time? I don't know.
And it's so interesting because I believe in real life, Cynthia Nixon is. She's a queer woman and everything. But we saw that queer storyline with Samantha, like Samantha dated.
Yes. Maria.
Yes.
Maria. I loved, oh my God, when Samantha was a lesbian and she showed up to the brunch at the diner and she was like, I'm dating a woman now. And she talked about like all their sexual escapades, and the one scene with Maria where Samantha was like, I'm so bored of talking. She's like, if this is what a relationship is, I don't want it. She said, I want fireworks. And Maria said, you want fireworks? I'll show you fireworks. And then proceeded to break all of Samantha's dishes at like 2 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Lived for that. Oh God. I love that scene. Yeah.
And I think,
so good.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. We're talking about all the characters. I feel like no one ever said it, but were they all envious of the freeness of Samantha? Is that why everybody feels drawn to wanting to be a Samantha? Like she had it all and could have it all.
She had it all.
She wanted.
She's the one at the end that arguably had, one of the strongest relationships. I think Charlotte with Harry, that was a beautiful relationship to watch. Carrie with the Russian, not
oh my God,
not so much. And then Miranda with Steve. Like, as the show began to wrap up, pretty much everyone was in a relationship except for Carrie, although it was alluded at the end that she was dating Big, and we finally learned his real name in that very last scene.
Yeah, John Preston.
It's John. It's just John.
It's John.
Yeah. All right, so we've talked about the characters, the show, some of the scenes, some of our favorite scenes in Sex of the City. And so now let's get into some of the maybe dating scenarios, different things that happened. What is maybe one of your favorite episodes or favorite storylines?
Okay, obviously, yes, Samantha is my favorite as we're talking about all this. But I loved the progression of her and Smith Jared, and just
my God,
and how much he just like truly loved her. And when he shaved off his head for her when she got cancer, like, and just when he waited for her like at the elevator when she went up to and her just like being able to cry in his arms, like it was the first time where it felt like Samantha was able to exhale and be vulnerable with someone who really just saw her.
Yeah,
and he didn't ask for anything from her. He just wanted her to be her. He wanted her to be happy. So I think that's one of my favorite like dating scenarios, is seeing that and how her being able to feel safe enough in a relationship with someone where she could just truly let it all go.
Yeah. That was a beautiful relationship. I'm thinking of the scene now where at the end, because he was an actor and she she kind of made him in a way into the absolute hunk, where he had this giant billboard in Times Square with the absolute vodka bottle over his junk. And he was like, well, I've never seen it so big. I was like, oh, Smith, you're so funny. But yeah, some of those moments of true vulnerability, I'm thinking of the scene on the sidewalk where Smith was trying to hold her hand and she moved away so forcefully that she fell into one of those like basement stairwells, yes. Right? And like sprained her wrist. And the scene where he goes to act in a Gus Van Sant movie as like a Viking of sorts. And, you know, she's like, hey, go have sex, do your thing, do you. And then she calls him and is like, actually, don't.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that for Samantha is huge. And then that scene where he flew all night to come home to be with her, just to basically tell her, I love you. That was it.
Yeah.
I loved watching that relationship unfold.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the hardest, especially, I mean, a lot of stuff happened in that first movie, but and I watch it now and I'm like, oh, I just want it to work out. Cause like, it is like, they are great for each other, but at the end of the day, Samantha just lost the love for herself. You know, she couldn't show up to that relationship in the ways that I think that she wanted to and knew that he deserved, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think one of my favorite storylines is also about relationships. No surprise there, but the one with Carrie and Alexander Petrovsky.
Oh.
In season 6, we are introduced to Alexander Petrovsky, the scene where they first meet one another at an art showing of sorts, like an exhibit. And they cross paths, they make eye contact, and then I'm forgetting now how they initially got connected after that. I think Carrie was talking about him at the brunch, and then Charlotte, being in the art world, was like, I know who that is. And then they got connected and they started to date. And then the big final couple episodes where Carrie leaves her whole life behind in New York, quits the column, moves out of her apartment, doesn't get rid of the apartment, but leaves her computer there and moves to Paris to be with Alexander.
And what if that blow up so quickly?
Yeah. Didn't that? Oh my God. And I think like also how we started to get to know Alexander was that one scene with Kirsten Johnston playing Lexi Featherstone, right? The New York socialite who kind of never grew up.
Yes.
Right? Like she was the New York City party girl doing blow in the bathroom in her 20s and also doing the same thing, the New York City party girl doing blow in the bathroom in her 40s.
Yeah.
Like never changed. And I think Carrie maybe saw a little bit of herself in Lexi. And not that she was doing blow in the bathroom, but saw a little bit of like, I'm still... Have I changed, or has my life stayed more or less the same over these, the entire series as we watched it? And here you had Alexander presenting her a lifetime opportunity to join him in Paris. And I think she had a little bit of fear, a little bit of self-doubt, a little bit of, is this all my life is? And took the opportunity to go to Paris. Yeah. And I think I would have done the same thing, Scotty.
I think we all do. Like we're presented, like for her, fashion and the adventure. Like she was given the ultimate opportunity to live that part of her life, but I think she did have a lot of reflecting. She was alone most of that time in Paris. Like he was working and she's like, I gave up everything to be with this man who I'm not actually with, and
yes. And we can all relate to that experience. It doesn't have to be as extreme of giving up an entire career to move to another country for someone, but that experience of giving up so much to be in the quote unquote right relationship, I think we've all done it.
Yeah. She self-abandoned a little bit, you know.
And as a viewer, I was like so with Miranda, where Miranda was like, you're living in a fantasy. And I was like, tell her, Miranda, she can't quit the column. She can't leave New York City. She can't do this. And then she goes to Paris and Alexander essentially abandons her. You're completely right. She was now in a relationship alone. And I think a lot of people in relationships can relate to that experience, present, past, and maybe future, where you're in a relationship, but you're essentially single.
Yeah. I mean, all of her, like her foundation wasn't there. Like, she didn't have her girl. No. She didn't have the column. Like, she didn't have New York City, you know? No. So not only was she alone in that relationship, but she was truly alone in everything in her atmosphere. Like, and she didn't necessarily speak the language. Like, it was, the glitz and the glam was great for one day, and she had this gorgeous dress, but you can only eat French fries in a beautiful house in a bed once, you know? Like, you
can only do so much shopping, go to so many museums, have so many croissants before it's like, wait a second, I thought we were going to be doing this together. Yeah. And that one scene where, God, it broke my heart, where her book is out at that point, and she gets recognized in Paris, and the two people that recognize her want to throw her a party for her book, a dinner party in Paris, dream come true. Well, that same night is an important night for Alexander at his museum, where he's debuting some new exhibits, and he has a panic attack and asks Carrie, please, I can't do this without you. Please come with me. And she has no way of getting in touch with her new French friends. There's no let's DM them on Instagram, doesn't exist, none of that. And so she goes to the museum. Alexander abandons her, leaves her alone. She runs as fast as she can through the city to show up at her dinner party, and it's over.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why, I mean, even as selfish as Carrie was, or just the moments where we're like, Carrie, you're being a bit problematic. Like, we still just, you feel for her, because we all have been there. And we're abandoning ourselves for the 6'9" guy, for the guy who has a nice place. But at the end of the day, that's not holding me at night. That's not reassuring that I feel safe and secure and able to exhale in this relationship. And I don't feel abandoned, that if I have to move across the country and it's just us, that we are the foundation that can survive through all these different things, you know. And she didn't have that. No. And then Big showing up at the end, and of it all.
How just cliche in a way, but poetic, and the ending we all freaking wanted.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, TV is going to TV, and they gave us the finale that we were all hoping for.
And then they gave us the movies.
And then they gave us, and just like that, where Big died.
Well, you know, and which the movie itself, like, I still watch it, and the wedding scene, it still breaks my heart for her.
Yes. Now that one,
understand both perspectives. Like, you understand, like, why John is hesitant and why he's getting frustrated when it's like all he wanted was her. That he said it in the movie. Like, we could have gone to the courthouse, but we know Carrie. We know, like, she wants. Yeah, she could have been fine with the vintage dress in the shop, and eventually she was. But it's Carrie freaking Bradshaw. Like, everyone, she is the single girl, like the sex columnist. Yeah. Like, she's been doing all this stuff, you know. So it's interesting, and we see it in the second movie too, where she is still that New York City girl, and she, yes, I would say that she's just matured in her partying, but she still wants to go out. She still wants to have the glitz and the glam, whereas John just wants to sit and watch black and white movies on the TV. You know, like that's what he wants to do, but they're still, like, not necessarily willing to compromise on those things, you know. So it's how do they find a happy medium, and then the kiss in Abu Dhabi or Dubai and with Aiden, and she still wants that spark, and she felt like she didn't have that.
Yeah, because their entire relationship in the series, like, they were never actually together. They didn't really date. I mean, they did a little bit, gosh, all the way like in season 1.
Yeah, season 1.
But for the majority of the series, they were in that clandestine love affair type of relationship where they were always with someone else, cheating, getting the hotel room in a part of the city that no one was supposed to see them in, but then Charlotte did.
And teeth are getting bloody noses, and teeth they're getting because of like it's insane. But they never treated each other well. Like,
no.
It's like he ended up marrying someone, and so was Carrie never good enough? Like it so respectfully, so I can understand like why she was cuckoo about it, and it just
because their whole relationship, I mean, pretty much their whole relationship was based on that spark, based on a sexual chemistry, based on secrecy, based on the chase, based on this is so wrong, but it feels so right. And if you try and translate that and transfer that into a relationship where now John wants to watch, TCM black and white movies on a Saturday night, and Carrie's like, hold up, I've got some Manolos in the closet and a dress. Let's go out. Well, yeah.
And they knew that about each other from the beginning. Like, she knew that he wasn't the glitz and the glam and didn't want all that attention. But he also knew that that's what attracted him to her, So
yeah. Very interesting. My gosh, we could talk literally all day about Sex and the City. Do you have a couple extra minutes, Scotty?
I have all the time in the world.
Oh my God. Okay. Amazing. Let's get into a little bit about Charlotte and Trey. We've talked about Samantha, Carrie and Aiden, Carrie and Big, Miranda and Steve even. But Charlotte also had some very prominent relationships. And I'll never forget this one line she said, because it stuck with me, where she says, you get two great loves in your life. The hopeful romantic that Charlotte is, two great loves. And this is when she was really down in the dumps about Harry, where she had Trey and then Harry. So later in the series, and she's like, oh, well, guess I'm done. I'm just going to be a single spinster forever. No more love for me.
Yeah.
But Charlotte and Trey, so very poetic meeting on the streets of New York, where Trey essentially, or his driver, hit her. And then he runs out of the car to rescue her. Charlotte was fine, everyone. Don't worry. She was fine. Swoops her up, picks her up in his arms. They lock eyes. And yeah. What do you think about their relationship?
What we talked about earlier, right? Like, checked all the boxes of what Charlotte wanted.
Yeah.
Handsome, came from a great family, like had this great place, but, and then the no baby, and just for whatever reason, their sexual life, which we saw Charlotte have sex and throughout the series. It wasn't as much as the other girls and everything, but
she still did.
Yeah. But for that to be like it was just like, oh, he can't get it up. And now and then they can't have a baby, and the cardboard baby that he got her, like,
oh,
what? Like,
God, that was bad.
Do you not know who you're married to? Like, yeah. And it just, even like we saw Charlotte in season 1 or 2 with the baby name. It's like Charlotte has always wanted to be a mom and a wife. Like, she's a little different from the other girls. She wants to live a more traditional lifestyle and all of that. So for Trey to come in and to be everything that she wanted and more, for her, it felt like, oh, I failed, Yeah. I have it all, but I can't give this man a baby. Like, he's not able to get it up with me for whatever reason until they're sleeping in separate rooms. Now it's this mysterious thing,
Yeah.
So it was heartbreaking to see her go through that, because it's like, we all wanted Charlotte to have a little more fun. And when she did, it was like, ooh, Charlotte. But it was heartbreaking,
Yeah.
This character who is a hopeless romantic that we all truly are at the end of the day. And it's like, well, she found someone who checked all the boxes, but the boxes weren't really full.
It didn't work. I see this all the time in dating as a flirt coach, where you want someone to check every box, or they may look good on paper, especially if you're on the apps and you're evaluating someone as a potential partner, but as a potential relationship before you even meet. And he had just, looks column, tall, dark, and handsome, great. Job, great. Doctor, money, check. The style, right? All that was there. Gorgeous apartment, check. Like, in very, very generous. And he was also, but a little bit of, dare I say, a simp, but not the kind of simp that you want to be with. I don't think simp is necessarily a bad thing whatsoever, because he was very emotionally available, but emotionally mature, I am not so sure about that. He would basically, like, he was one of those guys that just went whatever way the wind blew, right? And he wanted not necessarily what Charlotte wanted or what made Charlotte happy, but whatever anybody wanted. Whatever made anybody happy, especially Bunny. Oh my God. Like that one scene where they're all out to dinner and Bunny just gently places her hand over his wrist. And, he says he wants one thing for dinner. And then Bunny says, well, actually, honey, maybe you should have this. And he goes, all righty. And gets what his mom wants. So it's like he's there. He's down to just make anybody happy. Total people pleaser at the end of the day. Yeah.
But he couldn't make Charlotte happy.
No, he could not. And this was interesting, because Charlotte was not a virgin. We had seen her have sex on the show. But for this relationship, she wanted to wait until marriage. And then there were all kinds of impotence issues, erectile dysfunction. It ended up being something more psychological than physical. Mm-hmm. So they were able to have sex. But then we learned about Charlotte's infertility, and that was so hard to watch. And Trey just didn't, I don't think he knew what to do or say. They weren't able to really navigate that together as a couple. And it's not the reason, but one of the reasons why that relationship ended. Yeah.
And I still love one of my favorite scenes in talking about their relationship and how it ended, but I still love he showed up for her for the magazine.
Yes.
Like, and it so it was like, you know, they just, he's like,
where they were, you know, Charlotte, her dream is to wear the wedding dress and be in the Times with the marriage announcement. And that did happen. Remember, she had the ink stain on her face and where she essentially had a Hitler mustache, and she calls Carrie and she's like, you know, is this in your paper? And Carrie's like, well, yeah, but maybe it's just my paper. And Charlotte's like, but in my paper too? And sure enough, it was in every paper. But yeah, and then they were taking pictures for a magazine, and Trey still showed up for her. And then in the court negotiations where she met Harry, who ended up being her lawyer in the divorce proceedings, going tooth and nail with Bunny, Trey's mom, and Trey sent a telegram of all things, speaking to the Times, a telegram basically saying, you know what, Mom, just give Charlotte the apartment. She was an amazing person, amazing wife. Just let her have this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it helped me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, I think he really did love her. Like
he did.
Just didn't.
He did.
It just, for whatever reason, didn't work out, you know?
Yeah. He had, there was maybe some porn addiction to look at there. There were a few things that maybe we didn't go into fully on the show, but yeah, that relationship didn't work out. Gosh, I could talk about this all day long, but I'm glancing here at the time. So as we start to wrap things up, what do you think about the series standing the test of time? I think it still is relevant, not without its problems. Some things have not held up, but overall, what do you think about it, about its relevancy today?
I think it's still relevant. I mean, obviously, as things are shifting in so many different directions, you know, in our current climate, I think it's still important that it gave women a voice, you know, in a time that I think we were really turn of the century and everything. But I think in that aspect, it does hold up, because those were 4 archetypes that everyone could like see themselves in one way or another. And then all the supporting characters, you know, in their lives. And like you said, there's some things that don't hold up, but I think at the end of the day, what does hold up is the empowerment of women and the friendships and the sense of community, and how do we navigate life and dating? Because even now, like, and we've seen it, the show started in the 90s and kept going into the 2000s, and we had the 2 TV shows, and now we have the 2020s. What does dating look like, and how has it changed? Like, they didn't have Instagram, and didn't have these dating apps. Like, it was the column, it was meet cutes or just random meets, you know? So I think it always has been progressive and ahead of its time, which I think is why a lot of people had an issue when the first season of Just Like That came out, because it felt like the characters weren't themselves. Like, they should have been ahead of the curve. Like, you have Charlotte, who has a non-binary kid. You have Miranda, a lawyer. It's like, why is she struggling with like her professor being a woman of color? It's just, it really like felt like the characters weren't themselves, when it always had been progressive and ahead of its time. Yeah. So it's gotten better, you know, the last season, and then hopefully the season it'll get even more back to where they're supposed to be. So yeah, I think it holds up in the fact that empowerment of people, and just explore and get to know yourselves and do lots of reflection and remind yourselves like the community is important, you know?
Yeah.
That's how we survive through all these tough times.
Yeah, I think so many of the themes and the episodes and the relationships are still relevant, and they have stood the test of time. I mean, the original series, I don't think they had a DEI program at casting, right? I mean, we saw there was very little diversity, not a lot of inclusion on the show, even with queer characters. We saw a little bit.
With Stanford and
we had Stanford and we had Mario, or no, that's what was his name on the show?
Anthony,
of course. Anthony Marantino, the wedding planner for Charlotte. So we got a couple, and then a couple gay characters, and then that one scene where they were at the fashion show, and the friends were looking to set them up, and Mario and Anthony completely rebuffed Stanford.
Yeah.
Yes. Showing, I mean, really speaking to how judgmental the gays can be. Because I thought Stanford was adorable.
So cute. So much fun.
God. I loved his personality. Rest in peace, Stanford. Yeah, no longer Willie Garson, no longer with us. But I think so many of the what we saw play out on the screen, or so much of what we saw play out, and just how the show featured women in their 30s, early 40s, and then progressing as the show went on into their late 30s, 40s, and then with the movies, Samantha turning 50. You just exploring relationships, exploring sex, exploring friendships, female friendships. That was all groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah, I mean, because it broke away from the mold of, mother and wife, or caretaker. It's like, no, women have lives too, and they're multifaceted.
Yes.
There's so much to them. There's layers, and they're allowed to be. It allowed women to be humans.
Yes,
It
allowed them. We saw them making mistakes. Yeah. We saw them figuring it out. We saw them having sex on the first date. Right? We saw them doing things that women were quote unquote not supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like they were the boys' club that everyone wanted to be in.
And it told their stories, and we got to see relationships through the female perspective.
Yes.
Right. This is something I play with in my content all the time, where it's not just TV shows, movies, books, so many forms of media, but social media as well. Dating advice is given through the male gaze, right? About presenting yourself as the most attractive candidate, attractive person, so that you'll be picked, you'll be chosen. And so much dating advice is framed, what is the guy thinking? Why does the guy do this? Why does the guy say this?
Yeah.
Cool. That can be helpful. But what do you want if you're a woman and you're dating men, or regardless, right? We get to see, we get to hear these stories through the female gaze.
Yeah. And it gives them autonomy of their own lives. They're allowed to make these choices. It's not just, this is what you have to do. It's no, you get to do this. And I think it gave a lot of women, at least I hope, I'm allowed to have a career, to have sex, to do all these things, not to focus on, when am I getting married? When's the kid? It's no, you get to live a life outside of these societal norms, especially at that time.
Yeah. And we saw women having strong boundaries and not putting up with BS and breaking up with men. And right, we did not see women characters, as kind of follow that more traditional kind of role or route. Even Charlotte, the hopeful romantic who wanted, perhaps more than nothing else, to be a wife and mother, she still, I don't think, really sacrificed herself in the dating process. I mean, even choosing to abstain from sex with Trey, that was a personal choice. It wasn't to get him to like her or pick her. That was something she wanted to do.
Yeah. Oh, Sex in the City. And
Sex in the City.
That. I'm so excited.
Classic. Oh my gosh. Any final thoughts before we conclude the episode today?
Oh my. I mean, I just love that you're a big of a Sex and the City fan as I am, and I still rewatch it
obsessed
all the time. And I rewatch it every year as an adult, and different things resonate with me, even as just a queer male, and just how do I move forward in life, and in my dating, and just, as I'm getting older, and just what I really want, and allowing myself to have those things. Yeah. So I would say that just it, and yes, it's a show, but that's art, right? It reflects life, and life reflects art. But it's allowed me just to find different perspectives and just like, oh, how does this relate to me? And like, how do I want to move forward in my life? And
yes,
yeah, I've learned so many lessons and continue to, and even deep diving into Kristen's new podcast, Are You with Charlotte? It's fun to find out even more stuff that you think you know. And yeah,
I'll definitely be tuning into that, checking out Kristen's new podcast. I think as we've been talking about today, it speaks to the relatability and the relevancy of the show as to queer men, right? Not exactly like that look like the main characters of Sex and the City, but here we are talking about it, loving it, watching the new series, even the movies.
Yeah, I mean,
and learning so much because I feel like the show it gave us everything. It gave us so much about what we're going to experience in dating and relationships over 6 seasons. I think it was 94 or 96 episodes. So we got a lot of content. Yeah.
And we didn't even really deep dive. There's so much we could have talked about, and we would be here for 7 parts of this series.
Oh, I mean, there are, podcasts that do, standalone episodes on individual episodes, doing a playback, doing a watchback, doing the recap kind of thing. And so you could dissect and really go into every single individual episode, the storylines, the relationships. I mean, I think our passion and just love for this show, its characters, its actors, writers, right? All of just everyone involved, it really comes through because it's a show, but it's not just a show to me.
Oh my goodness, no.
It's a little bit more.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Scott Spraags, thank you so much for being back on Flirtations. I'm going to have your Instagram linked here in the show notes below for this episode, but where can the Flirties find you and follow along on your journeys?
Well, Flirties, you can find me on Instagram. I also have TikTok. I'm on there, but everywhere at Scott Spraags. And yeah, you can keep up with me. New adventures are happening. I'm excited to see what the winter unfolds. Some different things are going to be happening than they have the last few years, but
awesome.
Stay tuned.
All right. I'll be watching. I'll be staying tuned. Thank you so much for being back on Flirtations.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Flirties, that's a wrap on this episode of Flirtations. Thank you so much to Scott Spraags, Scotty, for coming back on the show all the way from episode 14 to now 100 and something. Oh my God, to share, more with us about this incredible, enduring show, its legacy, its characters, its romances, its sexcapades, its relationships, and just its stories of love, right? Like we're obsessed, y'all. We're obsessed. We love the show. Thank you, Scotty, for coming back on Flirtations. Adore you, love you. Can't wait to do it again for another episode at some point in the future. I know we will. Yes, to you, the Flirties, thank you for tuning in, for listening, for streaming wherever you may be in the world. None of this would be possible without you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this episode today, this conversation. If you're new to Sex and the City, yes, there's so much to do. You've got a whole series to watch, and then the movies if you would like, and now the new series, and just like that, it's all there for you. If you're a longtime lover and fan, I hope you enjoyed this reminiscing of sorts, right? Trip down memory lane as we talked about some of our favorite scenes, relationships, and of course, our favorite characters, all of them, Carrie, Samantha, Miranda, and Charlotte. Thank you to each of you. Yes, the characters for giving us so much, and the actors that played them, of course. Okay, Flirties, thank you again for being here. Please rate, review, subscribe to the show. I should really start saying that earlier in the episode. If you're still here, thank you. If you are, hi. Yes, please rate, review, subscribe. Share this episode or another favorite episode with a friend, someone you want to share some BFE, Big Flirt energy with. I'd love you for it. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Okay, signing off officially here at Flirt Headquarters. My name is Benjamin. I'm the Flirt Coach and Gay Libra Flirty. Happy flirting.